Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The cameras are rolling and the microphones are on. Welcome to tonight's special City Council meeting. This meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our recording secretary, Ms. Fernari, to please take the roll call.
Mike Bruno?
Here.
Tara Burkhardt? Here. Becky Ruby?
Here.
Dean Kilberg?
Here.
Craig Maladra?
Here.
Richard Marks?
Here.
Jean McGowan? Here. Jim Radecki?
Here.
Robert Swanson?
Here. We begin our special City Council meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Mikey Jr. to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Just like school.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mikey.
Nicely done.
Item 1, ladies and gentlemen, is to consider the mayor's appointment of Michael Clemens to serve the unexpired term in the 2nd Ward of the City of Geneva. I'd like to recognize Alderman Marks.
I make the motion that we do consider your appointment of Michael Clemens as the 2nd Ward Alderman, and I fully support it.
I would second that.
Alderman Bruno makes the second. Questions or comments from the dais? A roll call vote will be taken. Madam Recording Secretary, whenever you're available.
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhardt?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilberg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan? Aye. Jim Radecki?
Aye.
Robert Swanson?
Aye. The motion is unanimous of those holding office. At this time, Mr. Clemens, we would invite you and any guests you'd like. We will be administering the oath of office by our city clerk, who I believe, oh, there he is. Hey, Roger, how are you, man? The floor is all yours, Mr. Clerk. We're going to move this podium out of the way as well. Oh, thank you, Rich.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michael Clemens,
I, Michael Clemens,
having been appointed to the office of Alderman
having been appointed to the office of Alderman
in the 2nd Ward
in the 2nd Ward
in the City of Geneva,
in the City of Geneva,
County of Kane aforesaid,
County of Kane aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Geneva City Code of Ordinances,
the Geneva City Code of Ordinances,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderman
of the office of Alderman
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations.
We invite Alderman Clemens to sign the necessary documents, and then we will invite Alderman Clemens to join the council at the dais. A special thanks to our city clerk. Mr. Clerk, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Alderman Clemens, is there anything you'd like to say prior to hopping to the next issue?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a few thank yous if it's okay.
Of course.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, city staff, and of course, everybody in the Greater Geneva community, I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to serve all of you in this capacity. I take this seat this evening with great humility and gratitude. To all of you, I pledge to keep an open mind, an open heart, and to do the best of my ability to hear each side of every issue, and to try to understand those sides. I will always do what I think is right and in the interest of the greater good of Geneva, regardless of its popularity. And I will do my best to be accessible as possible to all the members of our community, the residents, the businesses, and the employees. I would like to give a special thanks to Mayor Burns for taking a chance on what is, by Geneva standards, a relative newcomer. And I would like to give a special thanks to the senior Second Ward Alderman, Richard Marks. As I'm sure everyone in this room is aware, Alderman Marks and I were opponents in the most recent election cycle. His support of my appointment, as well as his kind offer to help me get my sea legs, is a testament to the goodwill of this council and ultimately the strength of our community. And lastly, I would like to thank my beautiful and intelligent wife, Elizabeth, my happy goofball son, Mikey, my ever-optimistic father, and my dear friends that have always been there for me. Without your love, support, and encouragement, I would not be sitting here tonight, so thank you all for everything. And with that said, I'm ready to get to work, so thank you.
Thank you. Goofball son, huh? Mikey, he's talking about you, man. He wears it well, doesn't he? Item 2, ladies and gentlemen, or excuse me, item 3, forgive me, is approval of ordinance number 2018-20, amending Title 6, Police Regulations, Chapter 1, Animal Control, Section 8, Prohibited Animals, Acts and Conditions, subsection F, Animals in Public Buildings and Streets of the City of Geneva City Code. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Bruno. Second by Alderman Swanson. This matter is on the floor for discussion from the dais. Any comments or questions from the alderman? Alderman Maladra, then Alderman Clemens.
So my main question is what this changes. So by removing this from our ordinance, we're not, basically saying to the community, every place of business is now pet-friendly.
That is correct.
Okay. And so what changes is really now every place of business can, if they choose to be pet-friendly, they can.
That is correct.
Okay, I'll stop there. I'm 2 for 2. We're good.
Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, so I was looking at what people were saying on social media, which I understand is not reflective of the greater community at all, just people who are active on social media. But nonetheless, I thought there was a point that somebody raised that was valid to at least look at, which is their service dogs. This person had stated that they have a service dog and that other dogs distracted their service dog and made it difficult for them. And so looking at it from somebody who's coming, from a handicap point of view, disabled point of view, they're worried about this. And so I didn't know if this might warrant more discussion or not and how it might affect people in that circumstance. So leave it at that.
Alderman Radecki.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I raised a question over the weekend about maybe the possibility of delaying this for a little bit more input and a little bit more consideration, as the Alderman has suggested. There's just something here. It seems that it's an easy thing to say, let everybody make their own choice and everyone will be happy. But, we had an ordinance for over 40-some years. That doesn't mean it was a bad ordinance or that it's an outdated ordinance just by its age. It was there for a reason and it served a function. People are passionate about this. It's my sense that, this is not going to affect 99.97% of the population. This is going to be a very small a group of people. I don't know that folks that open up their businesses are going to get a boom in business because they attract dogs. I am concerned about the people who opt not to have dogs and how they will so indicate. Will they have a no dog sign and such in their window? We had 2 people speak to the issue last week. One is an owner of a pet supply store, which it's not surprising would be passionate for the position to make the change in the ordinance, and then one citizen that came forward. I equally have received many, many comments and letters from constituents saying that, they would prefer to leave the ordinance alone. Now, those aren't the folks that come out in droves and are passionate to come here and speak up, but I do get that sense from the community. And we did state, and I believe Alderman Kilberg had said we were going to give this a little bit of time for some more citizen input. I'm not opposed to making this change with the ordinance, but I just think that it's prudent to give it a little bit more time, have a little bit more discussion. I do think there's some points that need to be vetted out a little bit before I'm comfortable with making a change in an ordinance that's been around so long. So I don't know if what the council's pleasure is, but I'll listen to the debate, and if we're amenable, perhaps a motion, or I would amend it to a date certain or some such thing. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Bruno.
Thank you, Mayor. Valid points all. I did reach out to, had some brief discussions with various members of the business community. Obviously there's the food service aspect, which really is unchanged because of county regulations. But on the net, my input was pretty firmly leave it up to the businesses, and anything that as it was told to me, anything that keeps us from saying no to a customer is good. So my feedback has been to leave it up to the businesses. Thanks.
Alderman Ruby.
I pretty strongly agree with everything Alderman Radecki stated. I also have gotten some feedback, and it aligns with my personal opinion that it should be up to the business owners, but I really feel that we just need more time to get more feedback from the community. I have a feeling a lot of shop owners may not even know that we're discussing this. It's only been 1 week. So I think it's a no-brainer that the pet stores should be allowed to have pets. But beyond that, I just think we need to give it a little more consideration than this. This just doesn't feel like we've done our due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Burghardt.
Yeah, I'd also support a date certain. The community is really interested in this, and I think by setting that date, we could make sure they know they have their say. I got some comments on social media today, someone saying, what, there's no time for us to get to the meeting, and people saying, oh, they always rush this, and I pointed out, no, we're here every Monday at 7, and, the agenda's out every Thursday. I think we do a good job of letting people know what's ahead, but still, this has been an ordinance for 45 years or whatever, and I feel like we could, is it a change? The thing is, it's like it seems like pets have been allowed in these stores, just kind of under the radar. It was only when complaints happened that we were having to address this. I did do a Facebook poll on my Aldermanic Facebook page, which I've never done before, and again, take it with a grain of salt. The results were different than what I would have predicted, though. So I shared this on my Aldermanic Facebook page, Geneva Moms, and then a big neighborhood group I belong to. Almost 400 votes. 184 people say allow pets in the store, and 199 no pets in the store. So honestly, for me, this is going to be a tough vote. Whenever we do it, I think we're going to upset people on either side of the coin. There are people with allergies obviously feel really strongly about not having pets in these stores, people with children who are scared of dogs, I was amazed how many comments I got from people who say, I have a dog, I love my dog, I don't want to take it shopping, I don't want to deal with other dogs while shopping. But obviously, a lot of our store owners are saying they need to make it as enticing to shoppers as possible. I do wonder, do those store owners lose out on sales, though, from the person that comes in and sees the big dog and turns right around and says, well, we'll go someplace else? Or, they don't hear necessarily from that crowd. So I'd like a little more time just to make sure the public knows what's ahead of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kilberg.
I had a couple of questions. Could staff tell us what's the policy at the outlet mall in Batavia? Because I've never seen pets there.
The outlet mall in Aurora?
Yes.
North Aurora?
I'm unaware.
I would be curious to know what their policy might be, because, I've been there on several occasions, and I don't ever recall seeing a pet in any of the businesses or even in the walk areas around the outlet mall. My other question is when will we see the final draft of the revised ordinance? Because I think that would be important also as it relates to prohibited animals, acts, and conditions, more definition so that we know what we're actually voting on.
Well, nothing else in the ordinance changes, so what's in the code book currently would all remain the same. The only thing that would change is this one paragraph would be removed.
Okay, so it would be nice to see a final draft of the ordinance, how it will go into the record.
Okay, that's how it would go into the record, because all you're doing is removing,
So section
A
1 would
section.
remain as it is?
the whole rest of that chapter would remain exactly as is, with the one exception of that paragraph being removed.
The one that you're showing here?
Correct.
Okay. It would still be nice to see the ordinance as it's revised and presented to the council for a final decision.
Before I recognize Alderman Bruno for a second time, anyone who wishes to speak who has not yet done so? Alderman Swanson?
I think giving the businesses the choice makes more sense to me. We're not saying that you have to allow pets. We're not changing anything other than they can say pets are allowed. And I'm not certain what more time is going to provide us. We're going to hash out the same discussions. We may end up with 184 to 191, and again, be in the same exact position. So I'm prepared to vote now, and I think just not having saying no to the businesses makes sense to me, and if they want to offend or make a choice that potentially could offend a certain customer base, that's their choice. So I'm prepared to vote as is right now. Thank you.
Alderman Bruno?
Thank you. Merely to Alderman Kilberg's question. Last time I was at the outlet mall, I did see several dogs in the walk area. In fact, one of them was a Great Dane, which is a little ungainly. But I didn't see any in the stores, but they certainly had dogs there. I am prepared to vote tonight, but you know, I'm not really going to be opposed to delaying to a date certain if the rest of the council deems that necessary. Thanks.
For Alderman Kilberg and everyone else's benefit, according to research done by City Administrator Dawkins, the City of Aurora does not have the prohibition in their code, but we cannot speak directly to whether or not the outlet mall does, so. Anyone else from the dais? Alderman McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also be, I'm ready to vote this evening. I just feel that I have all the information that I need to make a decision. And I'm in agreement with Alderman Swanson that it seems to make sense for the businesses to decide if they wish to allow pets into their stores. And those businesses that do not wish to allow pets in should simply post something on their front door saying no pets allowed. And I think that's just the easiest way of going about it. And those businesses could then decide whether or not, by not allowing pets, that affects their finances at all. And then they can change accordingly. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Maladra?
So I was pretty content to vote on this as presented until the thought of what a business needs to do or not do. So what I'm comfortable with is a change that enables a store to allow pets if they choose to. Currently, our ordinance says none are allowed, so that's not a possibility. It seems now, though, that with this change, it becomes incumbent upon a business to take action to prevent dogs from coming in. I'm looking for something that allows for the exception rather than the rule. So what I thought we would do after we talked last week was we would amend our code to say something along the lines of, you know, pets are only allowed if a store chooses and is posted that they allow it. If we now require stores to post that pets are not allowed, I think that that's, you know, if nothing else, it's requiring a business who has done nothing other than operate forever to make a change, to accommodate a small percentage who are asking for the change. So maybe we should allow ourselves time to find different ways we can accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. Unless it doesn't require stores to post no pets allowed, and somehow, but then how do you keep them out? You could, I'm sorry.
Just additional information, folks, the prime outlets are listed on the gopetfriendly.com website. To Alderman Maladra's question, there is, I don't believe there's any requirement, based on if the council agrees to amend the ordinance, there is then no requirement for stores to post that pets are allowed.
Or are not, but somebody could walk in with a pet.
Sure.
And if somebody says, you know, you have to take that out, they can say, but I'm allowed to bring it in. So unless the business operator wants to deal with that multiple times a day, they would have to put a sign up at the outset saying no pets allowed. It seems to me that it would be less disruptive for us as a community to have code that says if you want to allow it, put a sign up, otherwise it's not allowed. Just because it's been not allowed for 40-plus years. City Attorney?
So the code removal, it's really a repeal. So the only thing that's before the council presently is a repeal of a section of the code which prohibits animals in public buildings.
Right.
Removing or repealing that provision would leave it to the business owner to determine for her or himself if they wanted to welcome or prohibit. So the notice, and there is no notice requirement in our document, in the code right now, would be on the business owner to say, this is an animal-friendly store, or the prohibition continues. So think of it as, it's a mandate as it exists right now. The mandate's removed, and business owners will determine whether they wish to prohibit or welcome animals in their unfettered discretion.
Okay, so where I'm at is I prefer that it's not allowed unless the business owner takes specific action to allow it and then put a sign up. So in that context, then I don't like the change we're proposing. Thank you. But I'm still prepared to vote.
Before I recognize Alderman Radke, then Alderman Burkhart, again, for what it's worth, ladies and gentlemen, the outlet malls allow pets to be on leashes in common areas and refer to each store as to whether or not they allow a pet inside their premises. Alderman Radke.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, and Craig, that's a great point. And I think what the city attorney just, if I heard him right, it is going to be up to the store owner to say, no, I don't allow dogs in there, because our ordinance would. And you know, I could take my bulldog, who I love dearly, and go to the Commons and start wandering in and out of stores to see who lets me in and who doesn't. And there may be some that have pet friendly, but I'm still not comfortable. You know, we told people last week that we were going to, somebody asked the question, in fact, the person that had brought this up, how are you going to notify residents? And we stood there as a council and said, we're going to give plenty of time, plenty of notice, we'll get plenty of input, that's what we do. So I do not understand why 6 days is necessary to, what the rush is involved to change an ordinance. It's been around for 45 years. I think there are some valid nuances with it. So to try to move this off center, I guess I'll wait for other comments, but I will offer, I guess it would be a friendly amendment to continue to a date certain, just to get us off center to see if we really want to do that or not. But I'll refrain until all comments are made. Thank you.
Alderman Burkhart.
I guess related, I'm thinking through my head, okay, I own a jewelry store, Craig comes in with his 90-pound lab, I say, sorry, sir, dogs aren't allowed, and he says, well, I saw in the newspaper, dogs are all allowed in Geneva. What do you know, well, sorry, sir, I don't want your dog in here. Well, how are you gonna make me leave with my dog, right? What, are you gonna call the police? Well, there's nothing to say he has to take his dog out, right? I mean, does it fall under the no shirts, no shoes, no service kind of thing for a business? How is a business, I mean, obviously I've lost the sale at that point, but I mean, if it's a standoff, the police show up, what do they do?
yeah.
I know I'm taking that to the crazy ending, but I think with, especially the publicity this is gonna get, people could, be pretty annoyed that their dog isn't being allowed in a store.
So, obviously, Alderman, your scenario is something I hopefully won't happen, right? But it is similar to the no shoes, no shirt, no service. There are minimum instances of decorum that a business owner can make for purposes of serving the greater community at large. And I suspect, because we have people from the media here, that what's being addressed again is the removal of the prohibition, which doesn't mean everyone gets to do something all of a sudden. It just means business owners get to determine their own lot, whether they want to be animal-friendly or if they wish the prohibition to continue. It's a store-by-store, business-by-business determination that, frankly, is steeped in the American free enterprise system.
Alderman Kilburg, then Alderman Bruno.
So, can a store owner discriminate between dogs, large dogs and small dogs?
Sure.
Dirty dogs and clean dogs? Okay.
Alderman Bruno.
Thank you, Mayor. What I think is percolating up here is we want to make sure that people can maintain the status quo if they want, but just not be in violation. Would it make sense to the council that we remand this back to staff to simply add a half a sentence that neuters the context of, no pun intended.
Yeah, right. You set that one up, bud.
That neuters that paragraph with just, except under the, at the discretion of the shop owner.
You can certainly add that as a friendly amendment to the main motion if you so choose,
I would make that motion
as a friendly amendment.
as a friendly
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Repeat the language just for clarification, Mr. Bruno.
I move that we remand this to staff to add,
Incorrect.
Just add the
Sorry.
language.
Just add the language now, because on the fly, we could do it.
to add language to the effect of, except at the discretion of the business owner.
The seconder concurs.
Yes.
Discussion on the amendment.
But there's nothing, we're taking it out, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
With all due respect, the problem is, the motion is a repeal, so it's gone. So if you want to add language, new language, after the repeal, saying business owners have the right to determine for themselves whether they wish to be animal-friendly or not, perhaps that's a suitable alternative? I just made that up.
Okay, so this is completely new language. I was just looking at like a short circuit of the ordinance. I'll yield my time to Alderman Radecki.
Just a moment of clarification. Does the city attorney concur that there is a friendly amendment on the floor, or no?
There's no
There
friendly
is not.
amendment yet.
Okay, Alderman Radecki?
Yeah, I think you made my point about why we need to continue this. I mean, we're at a city council meeting, a special city council. I think this should go to a cow meeting to have this kind of thing discussed, aired, invite people. I think we're trying to legislate this. We're trying to draft language on the fly. I just don't think it makes sense right now. So we do not have a friendly amendment, so I can offer one at this point. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment that we continue this matter to the next cow meeting and have it posted and have discussion on the matter for acceptable language and implementation of any change with our ordinance.
It's a motion to continue with a date certain. Is there a date certain offered by
July
the
9th.
Alderman?
July
Pardon me?
9th would be
July
the
9th?
time.
7-9. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Alderman Burkhart. This is not debatable. We simply take a roll call vote. 6 affirmative votes continues this matter to July 9th. Madam Recording Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
aye.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki?
Aye.
Robert Swanson?
Nay.
Motion passes 9 affirmative votes, 1 nay vote. This matter is continued to July the 9th. We will confer with staff with respect to language. We may offer several opportunities. We will also be publicizing this discussion on the 9th, if you will. Any new business of the council?
I'd like to make a motion that we waive our fee for tonight's special council meeting.
Motion to waive the fees offered by Alderman Radecki, seconded by Alderman Marks. Tough break, Clemens.
Yeah.
Roll call vote would be in order.
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart? Michael Clements? Becky Ruby? Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki?
Aye.
Robert Swanson?
Aye.
Point of order, or point of new business, if you will. What say you, the city council, with respect to the inevitable phone call that will be made by our friends at Wet Nose at the Geneva Commons with respect to whether or not they are in compliance still with the City of Geneva ordinance? Is my response to Wet Nose to be, you are still not in compliance with our city code? I ask because I promise you $1 that phone call will be coming this evening. Okay?
I think it shows we're taking this seriously. I mean, we had it on a special city council meeting 6 days after they brought it to our attention. So we're going to vote on it July 9th, and
No, I know that. That's why I want it on the record. I can't just waive the ordinance, exactly. So the message to our friends at Wet Nose, and the message to our friends at the at least 8 other businesses who have their dogs in their businesses is, whatever you're doing, stop doing it, because we will, as a council, and in the spirit of enforcing an ordinance, contact our police department to ensure you're in compliance. Are we comfortable with that direction?
Do we have a choice?
No. Okay, very well.
Can I ask, I don't have the ordinance up in front of me. It does make allowances for veterinary clinics, and now Wet Nose, can they loosely be construed as some sort of a provider for, I mean, don't they?
It does not offer grooming, and grooming is
They offer no grooming?
correct.
It's a kennel, veterinary clinic, or grooming parlor.
Kennel, veterinary
It was my position, ladies and gentlemen, that, and I know this is after the fact, but it's still under the auspices of new business, if you will, that we would rescind the ordinance and then return at a date later to discuss how best we can accommodate all those different opinions. Because right now, what the city council has done, in essence, is said to our friends at Wet Nose, we're delighted that you invested in the Commons. We're glad you've been here 16 years, no longer doing business the way you've been doing business. And I can count on my hands, which is usually how I do it, 8 additional businesses in town that have their own dogs present on site. And I know a lot of us can probably cite those businesses. When we go to purchase some item, we come in and see Fluffy, and it's like, oh, how lovely. But I just want to make certain that I'm speaking clearly when the phone calls come to me. Alderman Bruno.
I guess this would be to staff. Chief Passarelli's not here, but does staff know if we've ever had an enforcement action on this?
I am not aware of one. I spoke to the police department. It'd be code compliance, number one, but we have never, not that I'm aware of, received a 911 Tricom dispatch to say, get Fido out of the chocolate company, or whatever, so.
Well, it's clearly not our intent to keep anyone in non-compliance, but I think we've all shown here our willingness to make accommodations.
In the majority.
Thanks.
Only those that voted in the affirmative.
Alderman Maladra?
I think that the make accommodations is sort of a key. If that phone call were to come to me, what I would emphasize is we're looking for the right way to enable them to do what they need to do long-term. And for a 2-week short-term period, they have to accommodate a 40-year-old ordinance while we find the right language. I think the message of the council is fairly clear, at least from me, from Swanson, from some people. We're looking for a way to make this change. If anything, as a business owner, I would be worried by those who want to hear the popular opinion and see, if there's a huge outcry against this, then the message to that business is this ordinance is not going to change. And you have to decide what you're going to do at that point. But we're looking for a 2-week period when we can try to find the right way to make a change that works for everybody.
Alderman Marks?
Mayor Burns, and maybe it's for the city attorney, can we amend that ordinance now to allow wet nose
Anyone
or
voting
not?
in the majority can offer a motion to reconsider, and this matter can be brought back to the
On
floor.
the fly, bad.
I guess explain to what happens then. Does it not move it to a date certain again, or does it?
That's correct. It would be my recommendation on our new debate, and I know we're getting into slippery.
Well, that's why I'm asking you guys.
You offer, for example, a motion to reconsider, that requires a second, that requires a majority vote. If the motion to reconsider is passed, we can bring this matter back to the table for discussion. That discussion could include, rescinding with a date certain to discuss accommodations. I would also offer this for what it's worth, and I know this sounds dramatic, so forgive me. Mr. City Attorney, if you want to opine, feel free. But 16 years ago, this city council welcomed with open arms our friends at the Geneva Commons, unaware that what we did was welcome them incongruous to our own laws, meaning wet nose. So I feel slightly uncomfortable with respect to continuing this disconnect as opposed to immediately remedying the problem for this one particular business and then accommodating all the others through more rigorous debate. That's my position.
I guess, Mayor, that's what I'm unsure of. Can we make an exception in the rule right now for that type of a
You
business?
cannot.
No, we have to rescind it and then go forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Anyone in the majority wishing to offer a motion to reconsider? Alderman McGowan?
Okay, if I'm understanding this correctly, I make a motion to rescind our most recent vote, and I'm probably not using the correct verbiage here, to bring this item back to the table for discussion so that we can,
Are you comfortable with that?
just a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider item 3 on the agenda this evening?
Yes.
Mr. City Attorney, are you comfortable with that wording?
Conceptually, it's a motion to reconsider the vote just taken on item 3, which was continued to a date certain, that being July 9. So Alderman McGowan, are you moving to reconsider the vote taken to continue the matter to July 9?
Yes, I am.
That motion would be in order.
Motion's in order. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Bruno. The matter is on the floor for reconsideration. Mr. City Attorney, is there a discussion, debate regarding the reconsideration? There is not. A roll call vote, simple majority rules the day. 6 aye votes brings the matter back to the floor. Anything less than 6 does not. If there's a tie, the chair will vote. Madam Recording Secretary?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Nay.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
I need clarification on the aye and the nay here, please.
An aye vote brings the matter back to the floor for continued discussion.
A nay vote means the motion to continue to the date certain stands.
Stands, exactly.
Dean Kilburg?
Nay.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Nay.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Aye.
The motion, we have a tie.
5-5.
5 to 5. I vote aye to bring this matter back to the floor for continued discussion with respect to eliminating the paragraph in the current ordinance which prohibits dogs inside businesses. Alderman Bruno is recognized, and Alderman Maladra.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we rescind the ordinance as outlined in item 3 of tonight's special city council agenda, with the caveat that we return at a date certain, July 9th, to discuss replacement verbiage.
Alderman Bruno, so I understand the motion. The motion, I'm sorry, the action that was originally set forth is a repealer. You wish to have the repealer heard as presented and then add the proviso that the council return on July 9 for the purpose of addressing any potential areas of concern or clarification.
Correct, that we would repeal the
prohibition.
The prohibition, and then at July 9th, we would,
Meet to see if there's other alternatives or action required.
yes.
The motion offered by Alderman Bruno is clear as crystal. Is there a second? The motion by Alderman Bruno, as I understand it, city attorney can chime in, is to offer the language stated in item 3 on our agenda this evening, with the caveat that we hold time at the July 9th Committee of the Whole meeting to discuss, if any, accommodations to rectify the outstanding concerns by this council and this community with respect to dogs being allowed on properties throughout the community.
So
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it and explain why.
Okay, there's a second by Maladra. Maladra has the floor.
We opened this up for further discussion because I think anything's worth discussing some more. But the fact is, I don't like the way the ordinance, I just don't like the straight ahead repeal. So we would open it up, and even if we decided to vote tonight, I would vote against it, which leaves our friends at Wet Nose in the same jam that they were in when we tabled it. What I'm looking for is something that maintains the status quo but enables a business who decides to allow dogs or pets the right to do so through specific action on their part. But if a business takes no action, that the status quo of the prohibition remains. So if that's what you mean by reconsideration on July 9th, then I'm comfortable with the.
Well, if I may interject.
Yes.
And I don't know how to coordinate this, but that's not what the motioner stated.
Okay.
But you did offer a second.
Right, so I can vote against the
Okay,
amendment too,
great.
right?
Okay, so, okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So the matter is back on the floor, ladies and gentlemen. Alderman, I think Bergert was first, then Alderman Ruby? No, Alderman Ruby?
Just a technical question.
Certainly.
Is it possible to revise the ordinance, or does it need to be repealed first? Can we revise, as opposed to simply repealing, can we revise, or does it have to be repealed and then revised?
Unfortunately, with revising the ordinance, the action posted this evening with the Open Meetings Act, 48 hours notice, was repealing only. To revise would not be consistent with the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, so if we are to repeal, yeah, I would like to repeal it with the caveat that there is a revision.
That revision can be discussed per the motion on July 9th.
Okay.
It cannot be revised this evening for any action, for any implementation.
Okay, so if we repeal tonight, then we can come back in 2 weeks and
Correct.
improve it.
Or go
Right.
back, or-
Get the language that we've been trying to discuss. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alderman McGowan, then Alderman Radecki.
Thank you. We're asking by, the action just taken by the city council, we are just asking the community to be patient for 14 days from now until July 9th for the council to come back after getting more input from community members and business owners, and then discussing the best way to move forward. And I'm totally open to input from the people in my ward and business owners. So I think that meanwhile, the spirit of this whole action is that Wet Nose and the handful of other businesses that currently have been allowing dogs in, which were technically not in compliance with existing city code, will not be penalized, and they will not be, doing things outside of city, like local law. So I feel that this 14-day is just a temporary period for the city for this council to figure out what they want to do, and no one is going to have a reason to call the police on wet nose because someone walked in with a dog. So, thank you.
Alderman Radecki.
Thank you. Just when I thought it couldn't get any odder, we voted 9-1, and then we flipped within a matter of a few minutes from a couple of comments about a tough call that might be made. I'm completely against this, this proposal to make this change with the caveat that in 14 days we'll try to fix it then. How many businesses, I asked the city administrator, do we have in the city absent? I mean, we're
Approximately 1,000.
about 1,000, okay? Maybe take a few restaurants out of there, okay? We are putting all those businesses, nothing changes, people. We are putting all of those businesses back in the position that Alderman Maladra said we didn't want to put them in. We all seem to be nodding our head up and down. So be clear, we're doing this to the accommodation of one business for a 14-day period to get this right, okay? This is a business who brought the matter up to our attention. This is a business who should have known perhaps that ordinance existed 16 years ago when they put their business in too. I mean, there's more to be considered here. I feel for these people. I don't want them, I don't want to hurt their business, but you are now exposing all these other businesses to now, when I bring my Great Dane in, I've got the law behind me that says I can do that to your business, okay? And now you've got to be the one that's going to be back on their heels as the business owner explaining why you don't want it, just like Alderman Burkhart said it. Nothing else has changed. So if we're willing to, to make this change that's being proposed, on the fly, in 6 days, because one person brought it up, I think that's wrong. It's 14 days. It's 14 days to try to get this right for everybody and not to make an accommodation of one business or the handful of people that bring their dog and let it sit at the foot of their counter. So I am still strongly against it, and I'm perplexed why we would make this flip in a matter of a few minutes based on the fact that there might be an uncomfortable call or situation for somebody that has been in non-compliance for 16 years with one of our ordinances that should have really known about it. So, thank you.
To Alderman Radecki's point, I am, and I think everyone knows, not in any way, shape, or form uncomfortable about receiving uncomfortable phone calls. In fact, none at all. But I would remind the council that if we are to be steadfast in enforcing our law, then we all best be comfortable that when Officer Forney goes to a business and says to any number of businesses, ignore wet nose, sorry, that dog cannot be in this building despite having been there for 20 years. I know how much, and I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. How many of us have ever shopped at the erstwhile Geeshy Shoes? Part of the joy at shopping at Geeshy Shoes was going in and seeing their dog. But lo and behold, they were in violation ever since they opened. I didn't know that. I had no clue. Imagine going into Geeshy Shoes and saying, love the shoes, get rid of the dog, because that's the law. So that is the uncomfortable situation. And this council knows full well that despite what we say up here with respect to code enforcement, we tend to then think differently when it's so enforced. And I don't want to be in a position where we're given exceptions or asking anyone to turn the other way. I think what we're doing here is, or considering here, is the right thing to do. Alderman Kilberg.
No, I just was wondering, I don't think we gave the
Not yet.
public an
Not
opportunity
yet.
to speak.
I will certainly do so.
I would be interested.
love for
Is
the
there
public.
anyone here tonight that would?
Alderman Kilberg, I'll take care of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I thought maybe we'd do that before we take the vote.
Oh, no, I wouldn't dare miss the folks who are present tonight to comment. Alderman,
Taking a vote already, though.
no, we have not. We've taken a vote to reconsider. We have not taken a vote on item 3. Alderman Bruno.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have a different interpretation, Alderman Radecki, in terms of the shop owner does have every right to say they can't. We are not putting a law in place that requires them to allow. Okay, I misinterpreted then. Thank you.
Same question again. If this is not repealed tonight and we discuss it July 9th, can we revise it on July 9th?
Yes, as long as we post it accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure I actually understand what I'm voting on when this comes around. So is an aye vote going to mean that we repeal this tonight and then come back on July 9th and talk about it again and how to tailor it specifically to address Alderman Maladra's concerns regarding the businesses? And so it will, if I vote aye, it will be repealed tonight.
That is correct. With the,
We haven't voted.
with the caveat that it returns on July 9th for robust discussion at a committee of the whole meeting. Depending on how that committee of the whole meeting ensues, would that be advanced to the council for final consideration?
So can I also ask then, is it possible, or is it conceivable that we could repeal that tonight and then down the line actually put something back in place that would prohibit dogs from businesses again?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to keep it straight. Thank you.
I mean, come on, you've had an hour. What the heck's wrong with you, man? It's like
At the risk of sounding like.
Alderman Radecki.
So, there again lies my rub with this, is this robust discussion comment that, we're not having the robust discussion. We're going to put that off. We're going to make a quick decision without the robust discussion. I mean, you make a good point, Alderman, that we could, in fact, come back 2 weeks later and have the discussion and get the information and the input from the folks that we said we were going to seek that from, by the way, which we're not, in my opinion at this point. We're repealing this, kind of on the fly, in my opinion, but, it's a little odd to think we'll have the robust discussion later to see how we're going to make it work, but.
I will kindly remind the council that we have had umpteen discussions when one person has recommended we change a law. This is not uncommon to this council. Alderman Maladra.
At the risk of sounding like Alderman Singer, a point of order, we haven't approved that amendment.
That's
yet.
correct, we have not.
So Mike, first we have to vote on an amendment that says, what we're voting on really is repeal of this ordinance with the caveat that we come back in 2 weeks and search for that language.
Yeah, it's 3 plus that caveat.
So we have to do 2 votes to make it happen.
No, there's no.
No.
The motion was to consider item 3, comma, with,
Oh, one vote with that.
Correct, one vote with
altogether.
that, yeah.
I just said totally wrong,
So-
sorry.
And he's been here the longest, so you should feel.
It's the senility creeping in, it's the problem there.
ladies and gentlemen from the audience, anyone wishing to comment on this matter, ask questions, clarification, participate in the discussion? Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir, please do. Welcome. All we ask is that you state your name.
My name is Michael Tennis.
Hi, Michael.
How you guys doing tonight?
Welcome.
You're one of my new aldermen. Congratulations. I don't talk well in front of people, so if I'm a little shaky, I'm sorry.
Doing great.
I got 2 things. My wife is very allergic to animals, okay? So I am not for changing this, except to let establishments like Wet Nose have the ability to let pets come in, because that doesn't affect me whatsoever. We're not going to a place like that, okay? The second thing, with regards to signage, like you're saying, I'm wondering, okay, if you repeal this, are people just going to be wandering in with the thought that, hey, I can bring my dog in, I've seen it on TV, I read it on the news. And I know the signage kind of is for their awareness if they can take the dog or the cat or whatever into the establishment. But it would be also for us to know if we don't want to go in there. So in my opinion, if you repeal this, there has to be something written in there about which way you're going to go. Or if I like the idea of why should somebody who hasn't had an issue with this or is not here, obviously is not interested, or because of the haste, hasn't heard about it, have to do anything. If they just want to keep the status quo, they don't allow pets. But something needs to be really clear in that regard, in my opinion. That way we can make the decision when we walk up to that front door, do we want to go in here? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you, guys.
Anyone else from the audience this evening? From the dais? Is everyone clear on the motion? Yes, it can be. Here's the motion, ladies and gentlemen. The motion is, and refer to your scorecard, item 3, approve ordinance number 2018-20, amending Title 6, Chapter 1, Section 8, subsection F of the Geneva City Code, comma, and return on July 9th, 2018, Committee of the Whole meeting to discuss any and all accommodations this council deems appropriate with respect to allowing dogs in buildings. Madam Recording Secretary, please take the vote.
Mike Bruno.
Aye.
Tara Burkhart.
Nay.
Michael Clements.
Nay.
Becky Ruby.
Nay.
Dean Kilburg. Craig Maladra.
Nay.
Richard Marks.
Nay.
Jean McGowan.
Aye.
Jim Radecki.
Nay.
Robert Swanson.
Aye.
Motion fails, ladies and gentlemen. The word of the night, robust.
Does this now squelch the discussion on the
Yes, it does.
18th?
It squelches the discussion on July 9th, ladies and gentlemen. I will certainly confer with staff that we will be posting this matter at a later date, most likely the July the 9th, unless this council wishes to have a special committee of the whole meeting, God forbid it's hasty, on July the 2nd. No? Okay, July 9th. Yes, Alderman
Yeah, I would
Burkhart.
say the intention of the council was to discuss this on July 9th, which is what we voted, before we voted to not. So I think that's clear that we all want
advance
another
it.
bite of that.
We'll advance it on July 9th, no problem.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else under new business, sir?
Just have a question on the committee.
Come on up to the microphone, Michael. Sorry about that. We have to record this because we've had a lot of people calling in to ask who you were.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm sure. I get that all the time.
I can
everywhere go.
imagine.
The committee of the whole meetings, is it in a forum like this where the
Yes,
public
sir.
is welcome and can speak as well?
Same location, 7 PM, Monday, July the 9th. It's a less formal meeting, if you will, but obviously comments from the audience, the dais, what have you, are absolutely welcome.
Okay, just a vote will not happen that evening,
A
correct?
vote will happen to advance it to the council. Whether that vote be affirmative or negative is to be determined.
Okay, I see. So it's a vote to just, are we going to continue on with this kind of thing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks again.
You're welcome. Sir, if you're not signed up yet, I would certainly encourage you to do so. We have an email blast that sends out the committee and council agendas. If you'd like, you can share your email with any of us, perhaps Mr. Clemens, and he can sign you up then, so you'll know in advance what's on every agenda coming up.
Okay, that's something I'll definitely do.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business at this council meeting? If not, a motion to adjourn is in order. Motion by Alderman Marks. Second by Alderman Ruby. All in favor of adjourning the special city council meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
We'll take a minute, folks, and we're going to begin our committee of the whole meeting. Dare I say that was a rough meeting?
Good evening. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, June 25th, 2018. I'd like to welcome everyone to City Hall and let the record show that all aldermen are in attendance. Our first action would be the approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes from June 11th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Marks,
Second.
seconded by Bruno. A voice vote will be sufficient. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This evening, we have a presentation by our Public Works Department, and I'm sure that there might be a few preliminary comments as it relates to Mr. Babica's presentation, if you'd like to. Okay. Okay, guess what? It's to you.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you for this opportunity.
This is, you want to introduce yourself for those on camera?
Oh, yeah, it is. Look at that. My name is Richard Babica. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Geneva.
Thank you.
And tonight we are going to be doing a presentation for the solid waste services contract that goes into effect this Saturday. So this is a opportunity for myself to not only inform the sitting aldermen, but also the community is the status of the transition plans and where we're moving forward. This is the term of the contract that was approved by the City Council. It goes into effect on July 1st and will continue through June 30th of 2023. And you'll notice that I have a web page link there at the bottom of the page. That is the web page link that will take the public to the transition page of the City of Geneva's web page. There is currently, if you go to the city's web page, you will see all the information that's still in effect for advanced disposal. And there is a small paragraph that directs the public to the transition page for Lakeshore recycling systems. We felt it was prudent to leave the information for advanced disposal in effect, and then this weekend, our communications manager will transpose those two pages where the Lakeshore recycling page will be the predominant page, and then there will be a link taking them to the advanced disposal page. So basically, here is the transition plan. Lakeshore Recycling began last Saturday with depositing 65-gallon recycling totes throughout the community. We started on the east side of Geneva, and you may ask why that they're starting on the east side of Geneva, because the simple answer is that that's where the first collection will begin. So we wanted to make sure that we wanted to start on the east side, work our way west. They're averaging dropping off about 1,200 totes a day. It's a little under 1,200 totes, but at this rate, they will complete dropping off all their totes by this Friday. If you happen to swing by or go by the Public Works building, you will see that the entire west wall outside of our, by the fuel pumps is just a sea of recycling totes. I've never seen so many totes in my life. There is also instructions inside each tote, which if the residents choose to downsize to a 35-gallon tote or upsize to a 95-gallon tote, they have that opportunity until August 1st. All they simply have to do is contact Lakeshore Recycling Services, and the phone number is right there, 581-8650, or through the email at geneva@lrsrecycles.com. We are also going to have staff from Lakeshore Recycling at the Public Works building the first week of July, so they will be able to directly answer any questions for anybody from the public that walks in or that calls in the Public Works building. So then the next question is, okay, I have this beautiful brand new 65-gallon recycling tote and or a new refuse tote if you have a subscription service through Advanced Disposal right now. What do I do with the old totes? And this is another reason why we wanted to start on the east side and work our way west. Advanced Disposal last Thursday gave us their transition plan, and their concept is basically they are going to empty the totes and collect the totes all at the same time. So they are projecting a train of anywhere from 3 to 5 trucks going up and down every street collecting the totes. So it is imperative, and again, this information is on the city's webpage. So if any of your constituents ask why or where to go, strongly encourage them again to go to the city's webpage for all this information. But it is imperative that all the totes from Advanced Disposal be brought out to the curb for collection on the 28th and 29th. For those residents that are on vacation who are out of town, the protocol will be to contact the Advanced Disposal Customer Service Center and make arrangements for collection after the fact. It is also important to note that the stickers for collection for this Friday, you have to use the Advanced Disposal stickers if you don't have a subscription service. While the Lakeshore Recycling stickers are commercially available now, if you put a Lakeshore Recycling sticker on an Advanced Disposal tote, they will not empty the tote, which makes an interesting question as how they're going to collect their tote after the fact, but that is something that will have to be resolved by Advanced Disposal through their customer care center. So this top sticker there is what the new Lakeshore Recycling sticker looks like. It is light blue. We had originally contemplated going with the Viking colors, but the dark blue did not match or was not readily visible on the blue recycling totes or the blue refuse totes. And the concern with going to the yellow was that that is the current sticker color for advanced disposal. So to differentiate themselves, they went with a lighter shade of blue. This is a list that is also on the city's webpage. Again, strongly encourage the public to go to the city's webpage for the most current and latest information. Kevin Starr has been very diligent in pushing updates out to that webpage, even twice a day. But this is a list for now of all the commercial retail facilities that have the Lakeshore Recycling stickers already in stock. So the next question is, where do I get stickers if I don't have any for this weekend? Again, that is the advanced disposal sticker that's currently in use. That is valid until August 1st of this year. And the retail outlets that are in red and staff confirmed that they had advanced disposal stickers in stock as of noon today. So we have Geneva City Hall, the Finance Office, and 3 Jewel locations, and the Pride of Geneva all confirmed earlier today that they had stickers available. So again, if any of your constituents are asking where they can get stickers, this information is not on our city's webpage. It's actually too fresh to even have that on the city's webpage. But this presentation will be posted to the city's webpage, so it'll be available there. This information has also been shared with my staff as well as the administrative support staff at the Public Works Building. So if residents do call, we can get them this location of who has the information, as well as Chris Rainey here at the City Hall. Then I wanted to take a quick moment to just talk about some of the program changes within the current contract. There are 3 significant program changes that, while we may have briefly discussed in these council chambers in the past, I think it's important to reiterate to the public, and you can share with your constituents. The first one is changes to the landscape waste program. We've received a lot of feedback from the public about what to do with leaves that don't get collected in the December cleanup following the leaf collection program. So when we wrote the specifications for this contract, we wrote in that the first 2 weeks of the landscape waste collection, stickers are not required. So all you need to do is get the material out to the curb in a brown craft bag, and it's literally an unlimited amount. Just get it out to the curb and Lakeshore Recycling will collect them. Hopefully that will address a lot of the concerns that the public has had about what to do with leaves that either didn't come down or they were unable to get the leaves collected in weather conditions. The next one is a very exciting expansion of the program, and that is curbside electronics recycling. Jennifer Jarlin at the county does a fantastic job with electronics recycling for Kane County, but we still have a certain segment of the population that doesn't have the capability or the ability to get their electronics out to the collection sites. So we wrote into this specification, and it is written in there that if you have a TV or a monitor of any size, if you put 15 stickers on that piece of equipment and can get it out to the curbside, Lakeshore Recycling will dispose of that electronics per state and federal regulations. And then we have 2 smaller categories for electronics recycling. The first one is a small box under 50 pounds that would require 5 stickers on the box. And then single and small waste, which has been defined as a shoebox size, as 1 sticker. We really didn't define shoebox that well. You look at my shoeboxes, probably a little bit more lucrative than some others. Does that exclude batteries? Batteries can still be deposited at the Public Works Building. We have a bucket in our lobby, and dry cell batteries can be deposited at no charge, and will be collected by the contractor on a monthly basis. Excuse me. The next program, which is also an expansion of the program, and it's very exciting, and to be honest with you, we stole this idea from the county that it was implemented out in Mill Creek, and that's the food scrap program. And what this basically will allow the public to do is to compost their food scraps in with either their landscape yard waste toter or through their yard waste brown bag. And there is a list, again, if you go to that link and follow that link to the city's webpage, It will allow, or give you a list of what is allowable for food waste, food scraps to be included within your yard waste bag. Typically, that would include your fruits and vegetables, which you would normally see, coffee grounds, eggshells. What is expressly prohibited is meat products and meat byproducts. And again, I think the big thing to keep stressing to your constituents is to go to the city's webpage for the most current and up-to-date information. And then finally, this was just released today, so I thought I would include it. There is an association for solid waste handlers, and for the 2018 overall safety award was Lakeshore Recycling. So this is for the entire North American continent, and it was basically a recognition of their safety culture, their safe practices, and their inclusive outlook for not only just employees and practices, but also for the family's health and welfare. So I thought that would be an interesting little plug to put up there. So, are there any questions? Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. I noticed that on the sticker up there, it says it's also good in St. Charles, so the St. Charles and Geneva stickers are interchangeable now? Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. On the recycled totes, everyone's going to get a 65. If you want a 35, is there an extra charge or is that free? And then if it's 95, is there a charge?
As long as the change is made within the first 30 days or by August 1st, there's no charge for the delivery. After August 1st, there will be a minor charge for delivery, except when we go to the annual anniversary of the program. The public would have the opportunity to change.
So if
their
you go
price.
up to the 95 for recycled, there's going to be no charge if you let Lake Shore Recycling know before August 1st, or is there a monthly charge after that?
Yes to your first question.
Yes, okay.
There is a potential for a charge if you rented a second tote.
Oh, a second
Just wanted to be
tote.
clear
Okay,
on that one.
fine. And then currently, if I remember right, if you had yard waste, leaves and stuff in December, there was no sticker and you could put those craft bags out full. Is that still the case? Are we getting December and March now, roughly?
Yes, you are getting December and March.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I felt it was inappropriate. I actually cut the chair off. I'm sorry.
Alderman McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman Kilberg. Okay, Rich, thank you for the presentation and the info. I just wanted to double check with you because I'm looking at the webpage, Transition to Lakeshore Recycling. And it says on here something about calling Lakeshore prior to August 31st if you need a different size.
So I remember.
So is the date August 1st on that or the 31st, where you could request a different size tote without being charged anything?
If the webpage, it says it's August 31st, then it's August 31st.
Okay.
Again, it's the webpage has the most current up-to-date information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there any other questions? Alderman Radecki.
One other point of clarification, their first week on the job includes the 4th of July holiday, so that's holiday schedule, so pickups will be a day later than normal pickup. So people don't think their schedule has been changed.
That is correct. That is also on the city's webpage.
I just wanted to reiterate that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Alderman Marks.
Rich, I just want to tell you, nice job with this. You guys have gotten a lot out there and appreciate it, and I know in a short period of time. So I've gotten very good comments in regards to what we have put out there, so I do appreciate that. I think you and your staff and Kevin Starr have done a great job.
Thank you, sir. I'll make sure they all know that.
Please.
Just one comment. Whoever the subcontractor is that's distributing the totes, you might want to visit with them about where they're disrupting traffic in some areas where they don't need to. And on East Side Drive this afternoon, they were in the northbound lane and they had cars backed up, and there were people trying to pass both the truck and the trailer with the totes, and you couldn't see hardly around it because they had the totes stacked so high. And I commented, I says, you have the shoulder, in other words, where you could be driving and distributing from, but they insisted on driving down the northbound lane of East Side Drive with about 10 or 15 cars backed up in both directions. And, you know, I realize there are going to be areas in the community where that's going to be difficult, but just to take the liberty to block traffic and create a hazard, I don't think is advisable. So for whatever that's worth, I'd share that with you.
I will update Bill Kinney from Lakeshore Recycling with that information tomorrow.
Right.
We talk throughout the days.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I think that does it. Thank you very much.
Before I go, again, I would just strongly encourage the motoring public to use extra caution next week on the 28th and 29th when Advanced Disposal is collecting those totes. The roadways are going to be very congested as they go through the neighborhood, so please, please use extra care and caution as you go through those areas.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to items of business for this evening. Item A recommends suspending the rules to permit Alderman Kilberg to be the Committee of the Whole Chairman for this evening's meeting and to vote on all action items on this agenda.
So moved.
By Mark, seconded by Bruno. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item B, recommend draft resolution authorizing execution of a redevelopment agreement, development incentive, and reimbursement agreement between the City of Geneva and the State Street Coffee LLC. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Maladra, seconded by McGowan. The floor is open for discussion unless staff is going to make a presentation first. Kathleen, do you want to introduce yourself for the public?
Yes, thank you. Kathleen Timoshenko, Economic Development Director. The developer is here, as is the real estate advisor and the engineer for the project, so we can introduce them and they can address any questions. I'll give a short introduction and then whomever you'd like to address after that.
Sure.
The subject property is within the newly formed Fox River Tax Increment Finance District, which was approved in 2016. And this district was established to provide a mechanism to work to overcome development hurdles in the district. The district was formed with evidence presented to show that the EAVs were not progressing at the same level as the rest of the community. There's disinvestment, excessive vacancies, and just a lack of investment in properties. There's several challenges that we've identified, given the fact that there are built improvements that need to be overcome, civil engineering designs that were put in place for developments that are no longer today's standards. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome, and the TIF is designed to be that mechanism to allow investment into properties to be reinvested into the district and to start a pattern of reinvestment. The Dunkin' Donuts developer, State Street Coffee, is proposing to retrofit the space at 206 East State Street. This space was formerly a gas station, and it's been vacant since 2014. Dunkin' Donuts has been interested in this corridor for some time. They originally were looking at East Side Drive and State when a different franchisee was operating this area. The deal did not progress for several reasons that we've defined as hurdles in our TIF district. The Hari Group, who is also State Street Coffee, who is the new franchisee, has put their eye on this site as a best opportunity for them to run a successful business. The property went under contract and things we thought were going smoothly, and the contract was then terminated due to difficulty to make the deal work. Our department worked to try to identify what exactly was the hindrance, as we believe and recommend that this is the best place for this development to land and the best opportunity for this property to be redeveloped and be brought back into a higher and better use and a functioning business. Dunkin' Donuts could be expected to be an anchor business in the corridor, joining other national tenants. Those national tenants have all been assisted in some way by TIF inducements, as they're in the TIF 2, which we had formed years earlier. The anchor tenancy of this development, we expect, will help generate interest in the corridor. It will break a few eggs in the area to get things moving. It'll set the standard and help us to really establish that this is a viable opportunity in a corridor. So we are recommending this incentive agreement. Originally, the developer had asked for $230,000. After working with them and also the property owner, who determined a reduction would be possible for a reduced cost, we have been able to provide what we are recommending, a grant in the amount of, let me get the numbers right, a grant in the amount of $70,000, which is approximately 10% of the acquisition cost, and then a sales tax rebate at a 50% rate of the 1% municipal tax, up to 10% of the construction budget, or $102,000. The term of the agreement would be 10 years. Should the project not produce the revenue projected, it would end prior to receipt of all the money. So that is what we're recommending, and like I said, if you have any questions for us, or if you would like to hear from the developer.
I think we have several questions. Alderman Radecki and then Alderman Marks.
Just a quick clarification, the $102,000, it's 10 years or $102,000, whichever comes first.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Alderman Marks?
Does that sales tax rebate only apply to this owner, or does it stay with that property?
It would be transferable should they sell to a different franchise owner.
But it would have to stay with, as a Dunkin' Donuts store or not?
Yes, it would have to stay as a Dunkin' Donuts
Okay,
development.
just want to make sure if we're getting an anchor, we have an anchor.
You're correct.
Alderman Swanson?
Why are we doing two different types of incentive programs? Why not just include the TIF? Since it's included in the TIF district, we could make the entire incentive a TIF-related project. Why do we need to enter into the sales tax sharing agreement as well?
We are following the pattern that has been established prior in the TIF districts. The developer has identified a need to help with the purchase price, that the purchase price is a hurdle for them. And like I said, the owner of the property reduced the price somewhat. So the grant to assist with the purchase price, the rebate is a style that the city has grown accustomed to try to pay as you go for the incentive, as opposed to putting money out in advance. We definitely could alter that if you wanted to allow more of a grant and less of a rebate. I'm sure the developer would probably prefer that, but we wanted them to have some performance and some pay-as-you-go pattern, which is similar to the other programs that have been approved in the district.
It seems like we're hurting our future revenue stream from sales tax by structuring it this way.
That is a point of view that you could look at. We had discussed that too amongst ourselves. That's something that you could change should you want it.
And is there sufficient funding in the TIF to increase the grant at this time?
There is funding within the TIF district's fund, and there's the ability to move funds from one TIF to the other, should you need to.
So we have the ability to increase the grant if we so chose to, or we could move from TIF 2 to this project?
Yes, correct.
And eliminate the sales tax sharing agreement?
You could do that, and then the sales tax would go into the general coffer.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? Alderman Clements?
Thank you, Chairman. So regarding increasing the grant, I understand that TIF 3 has some $43,000 in that fund, so you would borrow from TIF 2 funding to,
Well, just to clarify, that's what we budgeted this year as revenue, but there's already been some expenses that will go to that, so quite frankly, there's probably $0 in there today.
so it'd essentially be borrowing from a different fund?
Right.
Okay, so my question is, I've got a couple then. One, and this is my ignorance of state law, probably, are there any penalties, fees, interest, or anything? If you borrow from one area and move it over here, do we get penalized at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, you can borrow between TIFs, so we're not, it's not like we're borrowing from electric for the, it's strictly borrowing between the TIFs.
Okay. All right, so my next question is, how much is in TIF 2 fund?
The final audit hasn't been done, so I don't know what that balance is right now, but.
Is it close to zero, or?
No, roughly 800,000.
Okay. All right, and do you feel that, does taking money from TIF 2, moving it to TIF 3, would that be in any way a hindrance, or would it impede development in TIF 2 down the line? Probably not.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I just want to make sure that if you move money around, it doesn't impact the ability to do projects in TIF 2. I assume that the money that's in TIF 2
You have to pay, I mean, you leverage both, so yes, it could at one point impact.
So from my understanding, then I should just view Geneva TIF kind of as just a big TIF, since they seem to,
No, because what you'd be doing is working to improve TIF 2 and building, TIF 3, and building TIF 3 to eventually have some improvements that would generate more in the fund to be used for development. So the
Right.
objective would be to pull them apart and have them.
And you would have to
both-
repay what you borrowed. to
right,
start.
no, I understand that, I understand that. I'm just thinking though mentally, it seems like we can move it around though when we're trying to focus on a certain project in a specific TIF district. So, okay, thank you.
Alderman Maladra?
So we have to pay it back. And TIF 2 ends in 2 years?
2022,
Right.
So we have to pay it back in 2 years?
not 2, well, 2022.
Okay, by 2022, however many years that
No.
is.
3.
No. You
Go ahead.
don't have to close, just because the TIF ends, you don't have to close the special allocation fund. You can continue to pay bills and do projects that were in the works. You're just not collecting any more increment, but you can still work those projects and complete them. There's a process to close out a TIF. It just doesn't end. Your increment does not continue, but you can still work your projects.
So what you're saying, are you saying then that this project gets done as part of TIF 2 even though the property's not in TIF 2?
No.
Okay.
No, you said that,
If
you
we-
have to
If we
end-
borrow from TIF 2.
Right.
To pay for this development which is taking, or to provide the incentive for this development which is taking place in TIF 3, when you say borrow, I presume it has to be paid back, correct?
yes,
To pay something back, you have to pay it back to something that still exists. Is that also correct?
yes.
Okay, if it doesn't exist after 2023,
It does still exist.
Okay.
Just because you're not collecting increment any longer into the TIF does not mean that the TIF is ended.
okay?
It still is in existence, you're still finishing out your projects, you're still paying out.
Essentially, the freeze is off.
Right.
Right?
Fair enough.
Just the freeze goes away and the increment concludes.
You might share that.
Yeah,
with
so
the
I
public.
think your question's a good one. The freeze is concluded, you're no longer collecting increments from the differential. Projects in motion can be concluded. There isn't a date certain, so a borrowing can occur, and clearly, the city has to allocate the repayment to TIF 2 from 3, no question about it.
But does it have to allocate that in, do we have 10 years to pay it back? Do we have 15 years?
You
to
could
pay
have
it
10
back?
years to pay it back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the other question, Alderman Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarity, before I get into other comments, so that payment back, even if the, say, TIF 2 is done, we still have an account, we pay that back, that still has to be spent within those original boundaries of TIF 2? Or once the TIF ends, does that just,
No, it still has to be
It's-
spent
okay.
within the boundaries of the TIF.
That makes
Otherwise,
sense.
it's
but I
illegal.
thought I'd ask. So just general comments on this. I'm pretty conflicted on this. I don't disagree with any finding. I have no problem with the business model in general. I kind of rather like the two-prong approach with the sales tax rebates, because there's no out-of-pocket with that, so it's kind of a slower entry. The property clearly can benefit from this type of investment. But then I come back to what's my vision for the east side? And for the longest time, and it might be Pollyanna, I've imagined some pedestrian appeal and somehow tying into the Geneva brand. And I look at this, and as good as a business is, I'm just not feeling this is the brand that I want. Not the Dunkin' Donuts brand, but the visual brand. You know, the two-lane drive-through, I don't think that's pedestrian-friendly. I think I'm coming to terms with the East and the West are completely different beasts, whereas years ago I kind of imagined some continuity between the two, and I don't think this has the continuity that I envisioned. And my vote will probably go with other comments that I hear tonight. Thanks.
First of all, I think both of you have had an opportunity to say something. Is there any other aldermen that haven't spoken yet would like to speak before Alderman Radecki or Alderman Maladra? I'll go with Alderman Radecki and then Alderman Maladra.
Thanks. I guess to Alderman Bruno's comments, I don't know that they're germane at this point of the proceedings. I mean, it's, whether you like the brand, the signage, the drive-through, that we're talking about the financing only now. Now, is it automatically bootstrapped in your mind to this, I guess, is another thing, but I think for the purposes of this discussion is, you know, are we willing to enter into this type of a financial agreement with this business? I think there's clearly a track record of this being an effective way to facilitate development. It's something we've done in the past. It's something we've had great success with. There are other businesses that have benefited from that. I think this is a key piece of property that, you know, the point of getting 50% or giving $102,000 of the tax increment or of the sales tax back to them. We're currently receiving zero right now. So, you know, there's the argument that that's worth it. I like the fact that we share in it because we want them to be wildly successful and pay that 102 quickly. I think that shows a shared commitment between us by doing that. I'm not in favor of borrowing more money from another TIF to enhance the initial $70,000. So while it's you know, these are always difficult things to enter into, I think some of the bigger considerations are existing businesses that have not benefited from this. The bigger question is there an unlevel playing field for some people, you know? But I think timing and luck and all those things play into it. I also think that they're taking a bigger chance than some of the other existing businesses. They're rolling the dice a little bit and making a substantial investment of their own money in this. So, you know, when it's all up and all things considered, I guess, you know, I think it's a decent proposal. I think it's something that's much needed, and I will be in favor of this when it comes time to vote for it, as currently is written. So, thank you. Thank you.
Alderman Maladra. Alderman Swanson.
Well, Alderman Radecki brought up the impact on existing businesses. I wanted to bring that up as well. I see economic development as not only enticing new development and filling empty spaces, but also sustaining our current businesses. And I understand the argument that we're not getting any sales tax out of it now, but if the existing businesses suffer, then we are going to be getting less sales tax, and we're going to be getting less sales tax that we were getting all of it, and we're only getting what we're sharing 50% of. So I think the existing businesses deserve a say as well, and I am not a fan of sales tax agreements, so I will be against this agreement tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Alderman Burkhart.
I struggle with TIFs in general, and I struggle with the sales tax rebates. And on this one, I'm struggling with giving this kind of money to a drive-through coffee and donut shop owned by a franchisee, a corporate franchisee. If this was a boutique hotel, if this was senior apartments, if this was some kind of shop that we didn't have, some kind of push some of our buttons, this just doesn't, a Dunkin' Donuts, I can throw a penny and hit 3 of them. I just don't have the, I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for a sales tax rebate or a grant like this in a TIF at some point. I don't know. I'm listening to all of you tonight. I'll be listening if anybody in the audience speaks up, but this one is just not speaking to me, at least as of now. I mean, the repaying, so I understand the sales tax rebate. We would repay, and the argument would be the EAV in that area would go up. We'd hopefully be getting more development. We'd be getting more tax money from other businesses that might kind of fall in line because of the Dunkin' Donuts being there, and that's how that 70,000 would eventually be paid back, right? I mean, that it's a gamble we're taking, but that it's something, it has more return on it than what we're putting out right now.
Right, you'll have an investment into the property. You'll have a viable use that is expected to have an increase of EAV as opposed to a decrease. You'll have sales tax. I think it's also important from an economic development perspective to address the fact of it's an auto-oriented corridor, and I know that there's a high desire for independent businesses and a repeating of what you have in other areas of the downtown, but that's not the kind of inquiries and interests that you're fielding in this corridor. And this is a different type of corridor. The drive-through, it will be busy in the morning, but most likely in the evening, what you'll have is you'll have a new business that has an outdoor seating area that does have pedestrian facilities. There is sidewalk. You're going to be having a major investment in the East State Street corridor, which is going to drive that area into a more pedestrian-friendly, bicycle-friendly, traffic-calmed area. And this business will provide an opportunity for people to walk, go get a donut, get a coffee, get a treat, and it is a destination. It is a national tenant, that is true, but it is a national tenant that's also has a neighborhood feel. Yes, there are a lot of them, so this becomes your neighborhood Dunkin' Donuts. And that should not be discounted. This area will not develop in a way that may be envisioned with respect to a lot of independent businesses. The hurdles to come into these facilities and retrofit them to meet the codes and the demands of today's businesses, it's just not there. We meet with people all the time that start out with a kernel of an idea and they just don't have the wherewithal to do it. What you're doing here is you're taking an interest in the corridor that knows that they can be successful in this corridor. They're taking advantage of the morning traffic, the auto orientation, and they're going to build off that. And that will be a benefit to the corridor. And you may be able to do some infill and create some money in the TIF that you'll be able to subsidize some possibly small business that you're envisioning. But without the bigger fish investing in these difficult sites, we are not going to see change. And that is what the TIF is designed to do. And you have an active interest, and you have an owner that is pretty set on the price that they will demand. And that's why I stand recommending that this is your best opportunity to create investment and to create a business that I think the neighborhood will probably embrace.
You're making this harder for me, Kathleen. Thank you.
Well, I just think that it's always more complicated.
Alderman Ruby?
I'm going to make it even harder for you. No, it's not unique. It's not a downtown boutique, but I drive past this location every day, and it would be such a huge improvement visually for our area. And I would love to see something, anything there other than a vacant paint peeling building. I struggle with the TIF as well, but we don't have, as Kathleen said, this is our best option. It may be our only option right now. So I support any improvement to the area, and I think this would be a great improvement. So, thank you.
Alderman Clements and then Alderman Marks.
Thank you. So I also would like to just point out, I think in the long term, this could be an incubator for that area. And the idea that because there's a Dunkin' Donuts there, that means we'll never be able to have independent boutiques or unique, store destinations. I think that's a little flawed because, I mean, if you just look on State Street and Third, we've got a Starbucks like right there, and I can't think of a bigger national chain, and we've got it right in all of our great historical stuff. I mean, and so it is possible, and it won't happen overnight, but it is possible if you can get the ball rolling. We could develop a more consistent Geneva, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, there does have to be a first step, and it may not always be exactly what we want, but yeah, I don't think we should look at it like we can never make it the way we like to envision it. So I just want to throw that out there.
Alderman Marks?
Kathy, I always struggle with TIFs, but I do like the sales tax split. I always like that because I think it puts skin in the game for both sides. We have been struggling since I've come on the council and before to find some national tenant to really kind of kickstart this area. We've talked about it, you and I, before. We've always looked for something big, hoping that would be the draw. It may not be the ideal thing that people are looking for, but projects like this don't come along every day. I would imagine it's taken a couple of years to get to this point, just reading the notes. So, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So, I think we've got to look at this seriously. We've been looking for something like this. Kathy, it's been since you've been here and even before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked successfully out on Randall Road, which we finally got through with, the old Eagle store and stuff, so, Dominic's, I mean, so, I think we got to push ahead with it. I do like the split. I will always vote when there's a split. I don't think we should just give a grant totally up front. I think it puts everybody's skin in the game, and that's what I like, so that's my comment.
Thank you.
Alderman Radecki?
And one last thing, kind of anecdotally, when Dunkin' Donuts had approached us with another location in the city, and we did not approve that because of the location, I recall several people that were on the council at that time saying to the developers, gosh, we want you in town, you're a great product, we just want to find the right place for you. And I remember having that conversation after we had just denied them that location, and the one thing I kept thinking about was, boy, if they would only go into this location, I'd have to seriously consider it. I mean, the presentation that they gave us was impressive, to say the least, about their success. I mean, you can throw a penny and hit three of them because they do very well, and they know where their concentric circles are and where to place their businesses. And, I'm willing to partner up with them. And I do remember that first go-round. I was impressed with with the national people that came out that presented to us about what they were going to bring to the city, and I had just hoped that it was in a better location at that time, and I think this might be it, so, thank you.
Anyone else? I had a couple things I thought I would share. I voted against TIF 3, and I am philosophically opposed to TIFs. I think that TIFs distort the market. I think it's unfair to fund one business while leaving competitors with financial disadvantage. Local governments have no right to determine winners and losers in the local economy. I don't think TIFs are needed for our local economy to continue to grow. There are plenty of investors for smart, profitable business plans. If developers and their bankers won't fund a project, then why should the taxpayers? One of the things that I don't have difficulty finding within the immediate area is a Dunkin' Donut. We've got a Dunkin' Donut on West State Street in St. Charles. We have a Dunkin' Donut in West Chicago. We've got a Dunkin' Donut on 64. We've got a Dunkin' Donut on South Randall. I'm not against Dunkin' Donut. All I'm saying is, isn't it odd that somebody that's had so much success in building these businesses in the immediate area all of a sudden needs financial assistance to be able to accomplish what we're talking about here? You know, this isn't free money. It's taxpayer money. And what they're asking us to do is to underwrite, not lend from us $172,000, but they're asking us to give them $172,000 to launch this business. I take deference to the fact that you have to come to the city and ask for this. If this business is so right, I don't see where $172,000 is going to make the difference in whether or not they launch this business or not. I feel that many TIF projects would go ahead anyway, even if the financing isn't provided. And I think businesses quite often shop and look for TIFs and look for taxpayers to underwrite and launch their businesses. I think there's a lot of factors that enter into this location. I think businesses locate in their enterprises in cities for many reasons other than TIFs. I think an available workforce, strength of the local economy, schools, traffic counts, communication systems, quality of life, low crime, per capita income are all factors. And, you know, I think, you know, I see that the owner of the property relinquished 5% from his asking price so that this deal could move forward. And, you know, I don't know what that amounted to, but it was probably somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. The developer's asking us for $70,000, and then also this $102,000 sales tax split. I know I'm probably in the minority on this issue, but I just don't feel as though this proposal is in the best interest of the city. Okay, does Dunkin' Donut, anyone from the audience that would like to speak at this time? If you'd come forward and introduce yourself, be recognized.
Hi, good evening all of you. Yeah.
Hello.
My name is Sonita Cheng, and I'm the owner at the Fresh Donut and the resident in Geneva, and my store is at 1188 East State Street. It's so close to where their proposal. It's like walking distance. And we've been working so hard to establish our business. Yeah, and when we open up, we didn't get any help or asking for any help. Yes. And
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Like, when we start our business, we didn't get, like, ask for help from the financial help, like what their proposal is. Like, they asking for help, like, 70,000 something. And I'm so concerned about, like, it's not good for our small business, like the bakery around here, like Heidi or Fresh Donut like us, or the bakery in downtown. Like, we've been working so hard to establish the business in here, and now Dunkin' Donuts, they come in and they need help with the financial to establish their business. I don't think it sounds that's good to all our business, like the small business like us. And there is so many Dunkin' Donuts around, like you could see it everywhere in the blocks. So I hope you guys could consider like helping out the small business like us to survive, yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about your business? How long have you been on East State Street?
I've been on East State Street for 4 years, yes.
And was this your first business venture?
Yes. It's our dream to open up a donut shop. Like, we don't have many small donut shop, and then like people only know about Dunkin', and we like so happy that when we open up and people knowing us and they support us, like they support the local business like us. Yes.
And does your menu parallel Dunkin' Donuts? Is it similar to Dunkin' Donuts, your menu?
It's better.
Come to the shop and see for
Yeah,
yourselves.
we make it so fresh. We work so hard. Like we get to work at 3 o'clock to make sure all the donut is fresh, not delivery from the other store, like from the big franchise. Yes. And we've been help out the community by donating the donut to the quite a few community in the Geneva area. Yes.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
We've been help out the community, like we sponsoring to the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they have the best fresh made-to-order egg sandwiches.
Thank you so much.
So good. So
Thank you.
We love fresh donuts.
I hope
Thank
that
you for
I'm not
coming
gonna-
tonight. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you all attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you get their names? Okay, are you a representative from Dunkin' Donut?
Yeah, good evening. I think everybody needs a coffee and donut break at this point. But I'm Barry Millman, real estate representative for Dunkin' Donuts. Name of my company is Horizon Realty Services. I've been the real estate broker for Dunkin' Donuts in this community for the last 21 years. During that period, we have actually developed and built or located about 50 Dunkin' Donuts throughout the Metro Chicago area. So we do have specific criteria. I appreciate, Alderman, your comments on our presentation on our last location that we tried to achieve in Geneva, and I believe the council was probably correct in not approving it based on the impact it might have had on a nearby community. Because of that experience, we attempted to locate a Dunkin' in a location that would do two things. Number one, not impact existing stores, Dunkin' stores as well as other non-Dunkin' stores. We recognize that competition is part of the American system, and typically a competitor, with all due respect, is not a criteria for approving or disapproving a particular use. In this situation this evening, all we're here for, and we will have our day in court, so to speak, as far as applying for our special use permit. But at this point, our issue tonight is whether we are eligible to proceed with our TIF application as presented. And I must say that as we've gone through this process, staff has been amazing in assisting us and helping us in achieving what we think is a fair bargain in trying to locate this store. Why did we come to this location? Well, as Alderman Ruby has indicated, it's a void in the market. If you drive the market from throughout State Street, we're 2.2 miles from an existing Dunkin', which would be the closest. If you drive State Street, if you notice, there's a river between the east and west part of Geneva. There's a CVS on the east side of the river. There's a CVS on the west side of the river. There's coffee shops on the east side of the river and coffee shops on the west side of the river. We chose this site primarily because of the potential that it would have to serve the local residential community. We expect that our primary customers will be those that enter State Street beginning east of the river, or more or less east of the downtown area, so to speak, heading towards Kirk Road and beyond. We also look for this to achieve a relationship with the school community along East Road, because that's where we originally started on East State Street, was trying to take the space at Orlando's Pizza. That unfortunately did not work out for us, and more importantly, in working with IDOT staff, it was determined that serving the eastbound traffic community was more important. I recognize that Dunkin' isn't sexy. I recognize that I'm a retailer by trade. I'm a retail broker. I appear before community councils throughout the area, and we have this constant argument. I don't want a dentist in my community. I want a boutique. I'm sorry to say there just aren't a lot of boutiques looking for space anymore. And it makes it much more difficult for us to fill these retail spaces. Our choices are primarily medical uses. We already have Randall Road. Frankly, most retailers want to be on Randall Road, or they want to be in the downtown area. Locating a boutique retailer along this particular corridor of East State Street becomes extremely difficult and hazardous for the retailer. We went back to Dunkin' Corporate and said, we understand that Dunkin' isn't the most exciting use. You need to help us provide something that will allow the council, the residents, to appreciate the importance of this Dunkin'. So Dunkin' Corporate in 2017 came out with a new design. It's not eligible to be built in the U.S. actually until 2020. Because we wanted to be in Geneva, based on the encouragement we received, as well as the...
That really will be decided by the Plan Commission, and that it wouldn't be relative to what we're here to discuss this evening as it relates to the economic impact and to the TIF itself.
Understood. And I appreciate that.
All that
wasn't our
information
plan.
was conveyed to the aldermen in their packets. So
Fine,
they're
that's
aware of
all
it.
I needed to know. I appreciate what you're saying, and I know we'll be up, hopefully, for a special use permit. I can tell you, we have tried to work with the seller to get this price reduced, and the seller has been adamant that this is our bottom line price. So I can promise you, as a retail broker, the property would probably remain vacant for a long period of time because the price is significant. We're going to be spending ultimately somewhere between $1.5 and $1.7 million on this site. We need these funds just to get us over the hurdle to meet our pro formas. I have with me tonight our design engineer, Steve, our operating officer at Dunkin', Tom Thiem. The costs that we've incurred are significant. I believe you have our budget. I can answer questions on that budget because time is getting late. But I understand we're here to talk money, so we'll confine our comments to that. and be happy to answer any questions and work with you trying to proceed to a favorable outcome.
Any questions from the council? Alderman Burkhart.
I want to clarify, I'm
Gowan.
looking for a boutique hotel, not a boutique retailer, but still, point taken. Do you have any stats on Dunkin' Donuts as an economic generator or any examples in the Chicagoland area similar to this where you've seen some development after a Dunkin' opened?
I'll just give you one example. I've done a lot of them, and I know Dunkin's do generate traffic. We opened it, this will be a 24-hour Dunkin', probably, at least for the drive-through, but we open at 5 in the morning. I'll give you one example right where I live, Northfield, Illinois, Willow Road. Willow Road was recently redeveloped. They put a large median strip in and created a 4-lane road. We built a drive-through Dunkin' right at a stoplight just before traffic enters the Edens Expressway. In doing so, we generated 4 more retailers that came by because Dunkin' was there and had the traffic to begin with, and also created some synergy for parking and involvement in the community. So, and Tom can tell you who's our operations manager for this particular network. That's what they do. That's part of their contribution to the community, is to assist we want other retailers nearby.
What kind of stores were those? Are they restaurants?
We generated one sandwich shop, a kitchen design store, and a beauty boutique that also sold product.
Alderman McGowan.
Okay, my question is in regard to the estimated 1.5 to 1.7 million that's already been spent on this site. Am I right, or is that the amount that would be spent? In other words, do those dollar amounts just reflect the land value, or does it also include other, like, planning components and things? Can you just elaborate on those numbers?
It's a conglomeration of purchasing the property, the upgrade to the property, which includes, this is a property that was built 40 years ago. We need to upgrade the sewer systems. We need to upgrade the electrical systems. We decided to keep the existing building rather than tearing it down and building from scratch, so that we're at least saving the skin of the building, otherwise it would be more expensive. It includes, obviously, the building hasn't been occupied for years. It needs a roof. It needs certain additional amenities. The pavement needs to be totally removed and restarted. Obviously, we're going to re-landscape the area. Obviously, we're going to have signage. So that price reflects a total expected cost for all the improvements from where we stand right now.
And is the time frame for thank you for that answer, by the way, and is the time frame for those improvements basically, once given approval, between that time and the opening day?
Yes.
Okay, and so basically, if you took the lower side of the 1.5 million that you mentioned, you would essentially be subtracting the $102,000 in incentive monies and things that you'd be getting from the city of Geneva. Is that correct? So it would be more like $1,398,000. I'm just.
Remember, we're our primary the way the TIF organizationally was set up we would get 70,000 upfront.
Right,
The
okay.
balance is paid to us over a 10-year
Over 10
period.
years.
So we're getting, so that means we're borrowing significantly to go forward, which incurs interest and financing costs, an operational cost. But this helps us kickstart the project. Without it, we probably couldn't get it off the ground.
And thank you for that. And may I also ask, let's just say, you know, because you mentioned there was a 1.5 to 1.7 million, you mentioned that number. So even with the financial incentives that would be, if they're given to Dunkin' Donuts by the city of Geneva, let's say that the number that, or sorry, the dollar amount that the Dunkin' Donuts owner would still be paying up front is around 1.5 million. And this is just sort of like a hypothetical, but how many years would it take for this location to make that money? Like what are the annual profits kind of estimated?
It's, you know, we do have a pro forma, and it's hard to estimate, you know, where we're at, and, and I hate to give you a percentage of return, because it's hard.
Like, is there a
to-
national average among
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts franchises or locations on a busy
We,
location like
you
this
know,
with the drive-through?
after all of the expenses and everything, we probably earn about 8% on our money, get an 8% return in the long run. But you got to remember that this is a 10-year TIF. We've actually calculated that it's actually 15 years before we really get the return on our investment. So even though we might be getting 10 years on the TIF, we anticipate a 15-year period before we're fully satisfied with our return.
Okay, well, thank you for that information.
Any other questions? Alderman Clements?
Thank you. It's a question and a comment. Actually, I wanted to, the question about what are your profits, sales, et cetera, I had looked that up. I was going to ask the exact same thing. And I saw that in the Midwest, just reading on Business Insider or other places, I know that's not hard science, they were saying about $600,000 in sales a year in the Midwest region, which I think is in line with what you were saying, because based on those numbers, we're doing 6,000 on the 1%, we get half, that's 3,000. So after 10 years, he's only 30,000 bucks is going back. So yeah, it's not a ton of money. But I thought I knew how I felt on this one, and then we had the Fresh Donut people speak. And I'm undecided on this. I heard you say that competition doesn't matter in just determining this. Your competitors don't matter. There's, you know, and I would normally agree with that. I agree with that statement under a free market assumption, but there's a disadvantage to them, I feel like, with the city kicking in money here. And we're talking about economic impact. And so if we do this, are we going to put them out of business? And if they're able to do something over there without anything from us, I'm just trying to process all that. I'm having a lot of trouble with that one. And so from an economic standpoint, I'm curious for other people's thoughts. You know, I want to do what's best for the whole community in that area, and I don't want to put Fresh Donuts out of business, and I don't know what kind of message that sends, and we have a responsibility to businesses that are already here, but we have to grow this area, so I'm wrestling with that. Thank you.
Alderman Radecki?
Thank you. Alderman Clements, I mean, I get that, and I've been thinking that through a little bit. It is not an economic disadvantage to them. If Fresh Donuts would have approached us and said, we'd like this spot, but it's going to take $1.7 million or 1.5, or pick a number in between there, we would have been happy to do the same thing for them too. It's not I don't believe it's putting them at a disadvantage. You know, where they went in with their business, I'm guessing they're leasing an already existing space. They didn't have the risk, they didn't have the capital outlay. There are certain things that they chose in their business to get into that the risks that they didn't take. So I wrestled with it too, but as I sit here more and more, I mean, these folks are taking a substantial risk in moving into this property. So I don't look at it as putting them at an economic disadvantage. And, you know, and the thing about competition is, you know, what do we say to the next liquor license holder that wants to come into town? What do we say to the next restaurant? You know, in the restaurant business, good restaurants will tell you they welcome other restaurants, that they make them better, that they get more traffic for them. I love their donuts. They put the cream in them while you're waiting for them. They're not stale. They're not, you know, I know where I'll buy my donuts because I know where I like to buy my donuts. So I don't look at it as, it is competition. It is the American way. I'm not looking to hurt anybody who's been a good retailer in our business or in our community, but I do think that it's not creating an unlevel playing field because these folks did not approach us to take this kind of a substantial risk. They have a different business and they approach their business differently. So this presents a different set of issues.
I
They're
can,
apples and oranges, so thank you.
I can tell you from experience, as one who operated a small business and now represent so many small businesses, and the first thing they always say to me is, well, when we operate shopping centers, we put non-competes in many of our leases. So if we have a Dunkin' Donuts, we'll put a clause in our lease that nobody next door can sell 10% of their product that is bakery goods. However, that doesn't preclude from a bakery opening right across the street of us that's not in the business. We find by experience, and I recognize, and look, I represent small business, so I appreciate everything that's been said. We find by experience, and unfortunately I don't have the real empirical data to back it up, but I sure have gut data. Small businesses near a Dunkin' end up doing better because they end up drawing more traffic to the area. You get customers that like chocolate and customers that like vanilla. They come to see the Dunkin', especially one of this nature, and suddenly, hey, there's a place across the street that sells really cool donuts, and suddenly everybody's business improves.
Anyone else? I had a few questions. One question. Could you tell me if these immediate Dunkin' Donuts receive TIF funding to open Geneva on just off South Randall?
I don't know.
How about St. Charles West State Street?
No.
How about Batavia South Randall?
I don't know.
How about West Chicago 38?
That was before TIF.
How about in St. Charles?
I believe that was before TIF. TIFs were available.
So there aren't any other Dunkin' Donuts that opened in the immediate area that were benefited by a TIF, right?
That I know of, but not.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Burkhart?
Because if this went forward, and I do appreciate you being here tonight, I would hope it would serve as an economic generator and get some movement there, but I look at the Dunkin' Donuts on State Street in St. Charles in front of the Salvation Army, and it has one half Dunkin' Donuts and the other half has been empty since it opened. Can you tell me what's the challenge with that location? It's, you know, I've seen the for rent signs that are for lease, and is there any movement there?
There is movement there. We do have prospects for it.
Yeah, I know.
So we're working.
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to,
Sure,
because
yeah,
it's not
so,
relevant.
well, just thinking of examples, and that's an example I know down the street from me that I have seen empty for a long time.
Okay, any other questions from the Alderman, or is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment? Yes, you have another opportunity to comment if you'd like. If you'd introduce yourself, I don't believe you introduced yourself
No,
initially.
my name is Regina, and I'm Sonita's friend. I just, she's concerned, and she would like you to take in consideration that, giving them the sponsorship money, the grant, that, you're helping Dunkin' Donuts put them out of business. It's not that, she's concerned about the quality of the donuts, because she knows that they're pretty good. It's just that, you're helping to reduce her business. It's not, taking away the business completely, which, is understandable. And, giving them money to do so as such a big corporation that is, looking for money, to open a store when, they are well-known in the community. And that's, one of the reasons that, they will take, business away, not because of the quality of the donuts, but because it's a very well-known corporation. And you're giving them money to open when they should be giving you money to start a business here. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Then this evening's action this is simply the committee of the whole meeting, and then this would move forward. If it passes this evening, then it would move forward to the city council meeting. It'll be on the agenda a week from tonight. Okay, would you please read the roll?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Nay.
Michael Clements?
Nay.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilburg?
Nay.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Nay.
6-4? 6-4, it passed. Okay, this will be brought forward again for final action, as I said, a week from tonight. July 2nd, okay? I'd like to thank everyone that attended this evening's meeting on this issue, and if you'd like to return next week, you're more than welcome. Okay, we're going to move on with the agenda then. That brings us to item C. Recommend draft resolution authorizing acceptance of bids for annual purchase of cable.
Second.
Moved by Ruby, seconded by Marks. Are there any questions of staff as it relates to this expenditure? If not, would you please read the roll?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Aye.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby? Aye. Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Aye.
Carries. It's unanimous. Item D, recommend draft resolution authorizing acceptance of bids for annual purchase of transformers and switchgear. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Marks, seconded by Ruby. Discussion? If not, would you please read the roll?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Aye.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Item E, recommend draft resolution awarding contract to Kelso Burnett Company in the amount of $330,000 for Western Avenue Substation General Construction. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Marks, seconded by Bruno. Discussion. Would you please read the roll?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Aye.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item F, recommend draft ordinance amending Title V, Health and Sanitation, Chapter 2, Garbage, Refuse, and Junk, Section 523, Collection Charges of the cities, of the Geneva City Code. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ruby,
Second.
seconded by Bruno. Discussion, any questions of staff? If not, would you please read the roll?
Mike Bruno?
Aye.
Tara Burkhart?
Aye.
Michael Clements?
Aye.
Becky Ruby?
Aye.
Dean Kilburg?
Aye.
Craig Maladra?
Aye.
Richard Marks?
Aye.
Jean McGowan?
Aye.
Jim Radecki? Robert Swanson?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Any new business to come before the public? Alderman Burkhart?
I wanted to say it was another great Swedish days. The weather didn't cooperate a couple days there, but when it did, it was beautiful. My daughter enjoyed the new ice skating activity on 3rd Street. We love the band, so I wanted to thank Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, all the city staff, Geneva Chamber, and our shopkeepers who were open late on Saturday night for making it another great event.
Very good. Anyone else? Alderman Radecki?
Yeah, when I went to Swedish Days on, I believe it was Saturday, and I came around the corner, I looked up and the hook and ladder was completely extended and the mayor was at the top, and I was wondering if he could describe the experience to us of being, because I heard some descriptions from some of the firemen, so
FCC rules preclude me from using language I chose that night, but yes, it was quite the experience. Amy was there with me, and she insisted to go higher, and I thought this was the end of the world. White knuckle.
Anyone else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Marks, seconded by Swanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.